What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to talk about the unemployment numbers that just came out, why some things look good and other things are not as great, and how the market may respond as time goes on. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. Anyways, let's now talk about what's happening with the market. So, we did a good job so far. The market's trying to push after these unemployment numbers have come out, but the question now remains, okay? Can we break the all-time high and continue to push from there? Can SPY surpass 608 to 608.5 zone, hold above it for over 4 hours, and start pushing closer to 610? Or do we hit the 608 area, kind of like shuffle around here, and then because we're gapping up, we eventually turn and we make a move right back down? So I'll be watching that very, very carefully. And I think the way to watch for that is going to be looking at the 608 area, if we could hold above that or not. I believe it's going to be very important, and there is a risk in the markets. So just keep that in mind. So let's talk about the numbers. What happened with the unemployment numbers? Well, unemployment was essentially almost the same, a little bit higher than what we saw from before, so it went up a little bit. But what offset that is the non-farm payrolls. This is a big improvement compared to what we saw in the previous data. Now, keep in mind, guys, I don't fully trust all this data. I know they could revise this data, in the future, and we can't fully trust this. But I just want to say that we just have to go based off these numbers for now, because this is what's being reported and this is what the market's responding to. So please keep that in mind. Now, the Michigan Consumer Sentiment data comes out at 10 o'clock a.m. for inflationary expectations. There could be more volatility because of that. But for now, we're looking for the big reaction after these numbers have been released. Look at the numbers. There are two charts to watch for. On the left side, you guys could see unemployment went up just a tiny bit on a month-over-month basis for the month of November, slight increase. However, what's going on is the non-farm payroll employment on a month-over-month basis. This is basically showing big signs of improvement. We had a very, very weak report from October, and then we saw a big improvement with these jobs being basically added. So, in my opinion, when you look at the numbers, the U.S. economy adds 227,000 jobs in November. Excuse me, which is like pretty good. But then unemployment did rise to about 4.2%, which is not that great. So mixed data, but I would say that it's more good than bad because of the big improvement in these non-farm payrolls. Now, besides that, the market hit all-time highs, and now it starts to slow down just a bit. So the question remains: will we continue to break them, or will we see the same thing as yesterday, where we kind of pump a bit then dump? We got the jobs numbers, which are not too bad. Besides that, I did see some good earnings come out from Ulta Beauty and then Lululemon. Good news as they start to raise their guidances. Besides that, I'm not seeing anything else that's too crazy. The last thing I want to mention is this. Um, for today, we basically have over 280,000 calls expiring, and we have over 866,000 of these puts expiring. 600 is max payment. We have a 3.05 put to call ratio. So we'll have to see what that leads to. So what is my view of the market right now? The market's trying to push. So I do want to say that we are technically a little bit more bullish, at least for the time being. And the market could attempt to push a little bit higher. However, when you look at the NASDAQ and other things like that, you guys can see that there is a risk at the resistance that we are at. And you want to be very, very careful. You don't want to be overconfident. You don't want to be over bullish. So what's happening is SPY is approaching the 608 area. Okay. I think that we could try to test that, but we'll have to see, do we hold above it? If we hold above 608.5 and break the highs from yesterday, we're going to be pushing all the way up to 610. We have to hold above it very, very strongly, and you have to see if that move will last, okay? So that's going to be very, very key for the way that things end up moving. So watch and see if the move ends up lasting. But if we get an opposite reaction, if we hit 608 and then SPY starts rejecting, it does not hold up above that very nicely, there could be a big opposite reaction, and we could be looking for a pivot. So make sure you watch 608 very carefully on SPY. We'll have to see if that holds or not. If we hit this and reject or make a lower high here, this could turn right back down because we're gapping up for the day. This is a gap up compared to how we closed yesterday. So there's a big gap to fill below now. So if we don't hold above 608, this could slowly turn and make our way back down to 605 and then 602. And if we hold above 608, if we keep holding above this, this could attempt to push a little bit higher. So I'll be watching that for the time being. So be patient, guys. Don't just like jump into positions upon open and wait. See how the reaction goes and be very, very patient. For ES, It's the same thing. We're trying to push here, but 6,100 is a tough resistance. Notice that we essentially have these highs here that are being made, but will we surpass the high and can we hold above 6,100? I think we test 6,100, we kind of consolidate here, and we'll see. Do we hold above this and start pushing higher? We have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment data at 10 a.m., so we'll see how that affects us. If we get that rejection, we could be dipping back down to 60.80, then 60.60. So wait and see what the reaction is. We're going to be very patient. If we make a lower high here, there could be a rejection coming as we're at some tough resistance, so please be careful. Nvidia is a little weak, guys. We were supposed to break out with the market. Nvidia is barely holding on right now. So watch 146. If we break that, we're bullish. If we can't break that, we're going to consolidate around 144. And if that fails us, I think we go down to 142.5 and even below that. So there could be a dip on Nvidia. Looks a little bit weaker. That could cause a little bit of downside for QQQ and such. So be careful with that. There's a little bit of weakness on Nvidia. Bitcoin could attempt to push for 99,000. If that breaks, look for 100,000. But then watch that 99 to 100,000 areas tough resistance. Will Bitcoin kind of reject there and start slowing down, or does Bitcoin just break past 100,000 to remain bullish? I'll be waiting for that. I do think it's going to be heavy resistance between 99 and 100,000, so please be careful at those levels. For Tesla, we did a good job at holding up. We pushed very nicely as we're starting to see the Bank of America news from yesterday that's still affecting it. The Bank of America has a $400 price target that was very bullish. And then there's a lot of talk about their models having long ranges on the news right now. But the problem with Tesla is this: the resistance at 380 is going to be a little bit tough. If we hold above that, we could get closer to like 382.5 and eventually 385 as our potential targets. So watch those levels as resistance. And if we don't hold above 380, we got to hold above that. There's going to be a risk of us tipping back down. We do have a gap to fill down here during the pre-market. So here's how I see this. Look for a push at 380. We'll have to see if we hold above this or not. If we consolidate at 380 and start turning back down, look for 375 to be retested. And if that fails us, we come down to fill this gap at 369 or below. So there could be a pump and dump coming to Tesla if that move does not last. But if we hold above 380 and if we continue to remain bullish from there, we could be going up to 382.5 then 385. So I hope that's very clear. We might push a little bit more, but be careful at 380. If the whole market turns around, Tesla could hit 380, consolidate, then dip back down to 375, maybe this gap fill. If we hold above 380, we remain bullish. So I'm just going to wait and see what the reaction is. We're still waiting on some more data. The Michigan Consumer Sentiment data is coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. today. So we'll see what that leads to. All right. I hope that's as clear as possible. For NQ, here's the problem. So as Nvidia is not holding up, NQ is at 21,500. Notice that we had a high here, came down, made another high here, but we're not surpassing the highs. If we break this high, we're going to be looking for 21,600 to break. If we make a lower high here, there's going to be a risk of us dipping back down to about 21,400. So you have to be very, very careful, okay? Be very mindful of that, especially if we could be making a lower high. QQQ has the same setup. We have 524 as our resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 525 plus. If we make a lower high, though, we don't surpass past 524, we could reject and start dipping lower towards 520. If 520 fails us, we easily come down to fill that gap at 517. So watch and see. This might be making a lower high here. So I'm seeing a little bit of weakness in tech. So please be very careful, guys. Apple consolidating, between 242 and 244. We'll see if it turns or not. It's still stuck. It was not able to surpass that high, so it's still stuck right there. One thing that's worth mentioning is the IWM tried to bounce, but we're not breaking 240, so this could continue to downtrend right here. We need to break 240, otherwise this could reject and start dipping. For coin, we pushed very nicely to about 325. We'll see if we surpass that for 330. It might push a little bit higher, but then we'll see if we get a rejection later on. If 318 fails us, we're looking for 308 as our potential target. Might push upon open, but we'll see if it turns. It's not looking that great. Amazon pushed very nicely to 222, but now we're starting to form a reversal candlestick on the 4-hour time frame. That could lead to a dip back down towards 220. If 220 fails us, we're looking for 217. So watch and see if 222 breaks to remain bullish. Otherwise, it could turn. For Meta, we're completely flat right now. We need to get back above 615 at the very least to turn back up. Otherwise, it's going to consolidate and start turning, and we could be looking for a dip back down towards 605 and 601. For Microsoft, we push very nicely to 444. We'll have to see if that holds. If that holds, we're looking for 446. If not, if 444 does not hold on Microsoft, we turn back down closer to 442 than 440. And then for Google, we're going to try to push a little bit to about 175, but the problem is we could make a lower high, right? If you look at this imbalanced setup, we could push and make a lower high than dip. So we have to try to get back above like 176 at the very least to turn back up. We might attempt to push a little bit, but then this could turn. So I'm a little bit concerned. So here's my view of the market. The market may push just a little bit upon open. However, be careful and see if these levels could hold. If they don't hold and we start rejecting, there's a chance that the market pushes a bit and starts dipping back down. So be very, very careful. Watch resistance and see how well the market holds up, and be very, very mindful of the possibility that we can't fully trust this move for now. So be careful and wait for the Michigan consumer sentiment data. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a good day and peace out.